accepting the status quo that was rotten to start with. The fact is that if Hamas had been destroyed, would have set the jihadis back decades.
And Spencer says that's what needs to be done.
And I think, unfortunately, it's going to take another large-scale massacre of Israelis to allow Israel to finish the job at this point.
I'm Chad, groaning.
And it's not exactly a terrorist attack, but loudspeakers at multiple airports were hijacked as hackers played pro-Hamas messages. Fox's Chanley Painter has the details.
As you can imagine, the passengers were startled hearing pro-Hamas messages suddenly over the airport PA system at Harrisburg International Airport in Pennsylvania, criticizing President Trump and Israel.
Turkish hacker Cyber Islam was here. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine.
At least 4 airports across North America were disrupted by the, quote, cyber vandalism. But not only were the loudspeakers compromised, the hackers even took over airport display screens with messages praising Hamas.
The Harrisburg International Airport says the message lasted for approximately 10 minutes. The airport called it a political message that did not contain any threats to staff or passengers. A Delta flight was boarding at the time of the hack and was searched out of an abundance of caution. And finally, for the first time in more than a decade, the number of states with rates of obesity of 35% or more dropped. That's being viewed as an encouraging sign that America's epidemic of excess weight might be improving. Those are the findings of a new report released Thursday. 19 states had obesity rates of 35% or more in 2024, down from 23 states in 2023. Find more news and information online. Our web address is afn.net. For American Family News, I'm Steve Jordan.
Some Christians wonder if boycotting businesses is really biblical, and that's a fair question. Ed Vitagliano and M.D. Perkins address that subject in depth in the AFA Cultural Institute video, Stewardship in Action, The Power of the Boycott. They share the purpose of boycotts and show how they can impact the culture. We're giving that DVD to you free as our thanks for supporting AFA this month. Go to afa.net today for more details. afa.net.
Welcome to Today's Issues. Join us for the next hour as we offer a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Ed Vitagliano.
And welcome to Today's Issues. It is Thursday, October 16th. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildmon this week. He is scheduled to be back in the captain's chair for Trivia Friday tomorrow. So for all of our fans of Trivia Friday, do not worry. The king will be back on the throne. Maybe I should have said president. But anyway, Fred Jackson joins me in studio. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning, Ed.
And Chris Woodward is in studio. Good morning to you, Chris.
Good morning.
By the way, folks, at 10:30, Dr. Alex McFarland will be joining us, so you want to stay tuned for that. And I do want to give thanks to a couple who has come to AFA/AFR for a tour, Jimmy and Mary Ann Flanagan. The Flanagans are here from Richmond, Virginia, and they came bearing gifts, yes, Fred. Mm-hmm. They brought Chick-fil-A for breakfast.
God's chicken?
God's chicken. So they were listening the other day. I'm not sure what show it was, if it was Trivia Friday or One Day This Week or whenever, when we were talking about Taco Bell. I think it was a Steve Jordahl segment where he said that Taco Bell had scored highest for fastest turnaround.
Right.
But Chick-fil-A scored highest for getting your order right.
They're good.
And the Flanagans were listening, and they brought us Chick-fil-A. So we are appreciative to them for that.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Yep. Looking forward to it during the break. We're not going to eat while the show is going on, but, we could. We could just We could make Chris Woodward carry the load while we muted our mics. And
happy to do it.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Well played there. All right. Chris.
Yes.
Let's get started here with the news of the day.
Well, we are in the process of getting some more audio beyond what I have brought to the show today. So stick around because we plan on, Lord willing, if the Lord tarries, Ed,
yes,
to get into Ma'am Donnie. I know everybody's dying to hear the Democratic Socialist running for mayor of New York City on AFR, and that's what I'm here for, is to bring in clips of what he had to say so we can analyze that and get our opinions out there to go with his. In the meantime, I'm going to begin with our top story in the AP section of AFN.net, that is the website for American Family News. And the headline for this story is this: Trump confirms the CIA is conducting covert operations inside Venezuela. In the story, you'll see that Trump confirmed he has authorized the CIA to conduct covert operations inside Venezuela, and he said he was weighing out land operations on the country. This, of course, has caused some concerns that maybe we're going to get involved in conflicts that we didn't talk about or plan on being involved in just a few days ago, certainly not when he was running for re-election.
Well, Fred, now we've talked about this previously. I've made mention of my nervousness about the fact that the U.S. military has conducted strikes on boats that are in international waters, where our intelligence sources kind of guarantee that these are drug runners. I don't think that using the military is the right tool for those kinds of operations. But now we have kind of an acceleration of what. I certainly applaud the president for wanting to keep Americans safe from fentanyl and other drugs that are killing. They kill thousands of Americans a year. But I am equally nervous about the possibility of overthrowing another government and us going to war with Venezuela. So let me just start with that, toss it to you. I do recognize that we probably have CIA activities in a lot of countries. Countries probably have their own intelligence operations in America. But I don't think the American people in 2024 voted for war with Venezuela or anyone else at this point.
Yeah, I think if you frame this story as efforts to stop the fentanyl coming in from Venezuela, people would agree we need to stop that. I think what you're getting at is methodology. How do you do that? Now, our Coast Guard is the primary force used to stop vessels trying to get to our shores, be they hauling illegal immigrants, or cargo that we don't want in this country, in this case, fentanyl. The questions that are going to be asked from conservatives and of course the left, but even some conservatives, some military people, is how far do you take this? And it appears the Trump administration is really, hesitate to use the word, provoking Maduro, the Venezuelan dictator. And that's what he is.
He is a dictator. He's a terrible man.
Yeah, he is. Along with taking out those vessels in international waters, and there was another one this week, 6 people aboard this vessel screaming across, I guess, the Caribbean. And you see video. Every time this happens, Trump administration, Pentagon, puts out the video.
Right.
So they hit these guys and they kill everybody on board. We also understand in the last 48 hours that the Trump administration has sent B-52s from a base in Louisiana. They left around 2:30 yesterday morning, and they flew close to Venezuelan airspace.
Yeah.
That's, the Russians do that.
Yes.
To our airspace in Alaska. So there's no question about the intent. It's a matter of intimidation.
Right.
You're right. We have CIA operatives in many countries. You know, when it comes to Maduro, you remember the other day, the opposition leader there in Venezuela has been living in seclusion for at least the last year because she's afraid. She just won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Right.
And she kind of handed it to President Trump the other day. when that happened. Fox has been able to interview her. She's so scared for her life, which is an indication of where Maduro is with this.
Right.
Many people say he didn't win the last election. Basically, he intimidated the opposition not even to run credibly.
Like dictators do.
Like dictators do. So Maduro, bad guy. How far should the United States go to get rid of him? Remains to be seen, and I think that's up for debate. And different people are going to fall in different areas on that.
Yeah, and listen, folks, for our listeners, I'm sure there's disagreement amongst our listeners. I haven't taken a poll inside this building. I'm sure there'd be disagreements about how far President Trump should go. And again, make no mistake, like you said, Fred, Maduro is a dictator. He's antagonized Trump before. He sent, under the Biden administration, he emptied his prisons and sent criminals here, gang members here. This is a bad guy. I think it's clear President Trump wants regime change. I will even go so far as to say I think the Venezuelan people would celebrate the overthrow of this dictatorship. Venezuela used to be one of the richest countries in the world, and communism under Maduro has destroyed that economy, and it's now one of the poorest in Latin America. And so it is clear that it would be an awesome thing for Maduro to be gone. The question is, should the U.S. unilaterally decide to end the Maduro regime? And I'm not an expert. I just think you have to be very careful with overthrowing other governments and interfering in the cultures and political regimes of other countries, because we don't like it when people do it with us. On the other hand, we can do it and get away with it because there aren't many countries that can mess with our military. So I guess we'll wait to see. I think the handwriting's on the wall for Maduro. I think he ought to be finding a place to land because I think President Trump fully intends to overthrow that regime and bring or allow an election. Let's put it that way. That seems to be where we're headed.
Yeah.
So, all right. You got anything else to add to that, Chris?
No. But I'll get into other federal government issues. And I say that because we're still in the government shutdown, and we've heard for days now from Republicans that Democrats all they want to do is make sure that an illegal immigrant gets health care. And that's why the government's still shut down, because they're so dead set on getting an illegal immigrant health care. They won't agree with us on a clean CR, all that stuff. Democrats, of course, say Republicans are terrible people and all that stuff. I'm paraphrasing a lot. I bring all that up because this morning on Fox and Friends, Dr. Oz, who works for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, was on Fox and Friends, and Dr. Oz said that we have spent over $1 billion in taxpayer funds on Medicaid for illegal immigrants. And I've got some audio here from Dr. Oz talking about this very issue, clip 2.
And they keep claiming that there is no money going from Medicaid, an agency that I run, towards illegal immigrants. So we decided to do our homework. We sent our best investigators out to evaluate exactly what is going on. And I'm here to announce, Ainsley, and this is a big deal, that just over the last few months, we have proven that there's been over $1 billion. That's a billion with a B. It's a lot of money. It's not a rounding error. $1 billion paid by U.S. taxpayers for illegal immigrants in about half a dozen states. And we're just getting started. So it's going to be a significantly more money than that. And just to break this down for everybody, Ainsley, if you live in Texas or Florida and you're paying U.S. federal taxes, most people do, your money is being diverted to places like California who have robust benefits for illegal immigrants, dental, vision, things you don't even get on Medicare. And those funds we have no ability to track until today. Now we're investigating it, and we're going to continue to track this across the country.
Well, I think when the final accounting, Fred, is over, the numbers, as Dr. Oz was saying, are going to be huge. Okay, where billions upon billions and billions of dollars, just going even beyond medical care.
Yep.
That money, U.S. tax dollars, have gone to help illegal immigrants in this country, including under the Biden administration. You remember the federal government, I believe the feds were forking over money to hotels in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
And paying them top dollar to house illegal immigrants.
Nice
All that
hotels.
money. Huh?
Nice hotels.
Yes. Even to the point where veterans were getting kicked out because the hotels could harvest more money than what other people were paying. It's going to be in the tens and tens of billions of dollars. We'll find out over 4 years under Biden, and then in these blue states, which continue to divert monies to illegal immigrants.
Yeah, let's just track this story about illegal immigrants. During the Biden years, we'll go back that far. Joe Biden deliberately opened up our borders. He deliberately allowed the numbers, 12 million, 20 million, maybe more, to come into this country. And as Tim has said on a number of occasions, the motivation behind all of that is to bring a bunch of people in who the Democrats believe will vote for them.
Right.
All right? So that is why in California, they are now helping. We've done this story over the last week or so. They just passed, I think, an executive order in California the last few days that they are now going to help families where ICE has gone in and arrested people, illegal immigrants. They're now going to tell landlords in California, you cannot eject these people. You're going to be forced, landlord. You have your bills, utility bills, but you cannot throw them out if they can't pay the rent.
Right.
All right? And we're going to help these people. So they're helping people who have illegal immigrant relatives. All right? So that's one thing. Just the other day, a county judge, Cook County, which encompasses Chicago, a judge there said, we're going to pass an ordinance that says ICE agents cannot arrest anybody in the vicinity of our courts. So if you have an illegal immigrant who has committed a crime in Chicago, they are saying ICE agents are not allowed to come in the vicinity of, let alone inside the courtroom. We're not going to allow this to happen. You add all of this up, whether it's in Boston, what's going on there, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, these are all Democrat politicians making these moves. And let's be very clear. The reason our government is shut down right now is because of the Democrat agenda for illegal immigrants.
That's the
bottom line.
That's the bottom line.
Yep. The Democrats want to save Obamacare. They want to make sure Obamacare never goes away. Mm-hmm. And what they're really asking for is more money for subsidies for illegal immigrants to get health care. That's where we are with this.
Because the subsidies are the thing that is keeping Obamacare in the realm of affordability for people. And without those subsidies, everyone finds out just how absurdly expensive Obamacare is. Of course, that's a separate issue in terms of discussing Obamacare, but that is why the government is shut down. And here's another kind of a separate issue, but you did mention it. I don't know where these states are getting their legal advice from because the state law does not trump federal law when the feds are looking for federal criminals.
Yeah.
You can't stop ICE from arresting people. I don't care where they're located. Maybe just out of common courtesy, ICE isn't going to walk into state buildings, okay? But it's saying they can't even arrest people in the vicinity, they're going to lose that fight. The states are, and it would be humiliating for them to do so. But that's where we're headed. We're headed for this conflict between blue states who are, in a way that just kind of blows my mind, willing to die on this hill to continue to use money that should be going, if it goes anywhere, these federal dollars should be going to Americans.
Well,
taxpayers.
Keep in mind, too, that the government is shut down because of something the government was never required or called on to do in the first place, and that is to provide health care for people.
Yes.
In the early days, no one talked about, put in writing that the federal government should give people money to go to a hospital. They decided that decades ago. I know that sounds heartless, but it's still the truth.
Well, I'll also say one other thing, and we're tossing a lot of items into this pot of stew, folks. I understand that. But these kinds of things do kind of spider web out into all sorts of different issues. But with the Trump crackdown on illegal immigrants in this country, many people have been arrested and deported. Others have self-deported. And what I am reading from across the country and actually experienced, had to go visit someone who had gone to the emergency room in our local hospital. It was empty. There was probably 6 people there, okay, when under the Biden administration, illegal immigrants were essentially using the emergency room for their primary health care.
Yep.
And I'm reading that across the country in many, many states, these emergency rooms have almost gone empty. Maybe it's different on weekends when a lot of people get themselves in a jam and need medical care. But I've been reading that these emergency rooms are returning to a normal kind of business model because illegal immigrants are leaving.
Yeah.
So when I say that this issue kind of spider webs into, we're talking about hospitals maybe being able to stay in business rather than, especially in rural areas, going out of business. And the access to health care that Americans want now returning to themselves rather than illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
Sticking with immigration here for just a moment, in California, they are not complying with federal standards or policies that truck drivers in these United States of America should be able to read and speak English. And so as a result of California not following through and delivering on this federal policy, the Transportation Department, Sean Duffy, the secretary there, has announced that the federal government is going to withhold some funding to California based on the fact that they are not forcing drivers there, truck drivers, to be able to read and speak English. Clip 5.
To drive an 18-wheeler, a semi, a school bus, you have to speak English and you have to understand English. And you should be tested for this when you take your CDL exam. A lot of states weren't doing it. We've sent out notices to all the states that they have to start to comply. All the states have complied, but one. That would be California. Gavin Newsom cares more about illegal migrants than he does about the safety of his citizens or the citizens around the country. And so we use what tools that we can. And we have $40 million of funding that goes to the state of California. Because they haven't complied, we'll use the tools that we have to make sure we make California pay attention to basic safety regulations, which is English language, behind the truck, behind the big wheels of these big rigs.
Fred, this is crazy. Now, Gavin Newsom, I don't know what his chances are. He's clearly going to run for president in 2028. I don't know what his chances are. He has a lot of name recognition amongst Democrats and probably the general public. He is the governor of a large state, so that helps. He probably would get a lot of money from Democratic donors, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know what his chances are. However, it is clear from his governorship that he does not care about America. California is a huge state. It is also the linchpin of the American economy in a lot of respects, because a lot of products come through the docks of California, or fruits, vegetables, etc., grown in California, but they get to the rest of the country via trucks.
Yep.
And so what California does is very important. And I'm not even sure what this clip, when we talk about $40 million worth of federal tax dollars, I don't think Gavin Newsom cares.
No.
He doesn't care how many people die in wrecks caused by people who can't read English, so they don't know what the signs say. He doesn't care what happens to the people in his own state if that $40 million is withheld. He doesn't care what happens to the people in his own state who are in danger on the highways. This man does not care, and it is kind of the leftist mindset that you like Lenin said, you want to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. That's the way they view human life, and that's the way they view America.
Yeah.
Well, Secretary Duffy makes a very good point. You know, if this was something that just affected California, people may say, well, you know, state government, they can do what they want in California. It's not going to affect me. But what California is doing by giving drivers who apply to drive these big rigs, you don't have to speak English. You don't have to read English. Well, you can't read signs as you drive along.
Right.
California truck drivers move across the country, and we all remember that tragedy in Florida in August when a guy by the name of Harjinder Singh, driving a big 18-wheeler from California, by the way, he entered the country illegally.
Right.
He makes a U-turn on an interstate highway.
In an 18-wheeler.
In an 18-wheeler. And as that trailer is across the two lanes, a family of three drives into it with a van. They're all killed.
Right.
Now, he's been charged. But how many times the potential for this kind of thing to happen, if you have a guy, and we don't know how much truck driving experience he had.
Right.
You know, if California can compromise on the, you know, you don't have to read English to drive our trucks, what other compromises are being made? These are fatal compromises.
Yes.
Bottom line.
Well, listen, it is true, the old saying, elections have consequences. I think Barack Obama might have been the first one I heard say it. But it is true. Elections have consequences, and people have to start paying attention to what's happening. Voters in California, I'm shocked that Gavin Newsom is the governor there, and Californians continue to vote in leftists to run their state, but it does affect the rest of the country, as it does here in this case with trucking. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, Dr. Alex McFarland will join us. We sure hope you will tune in to listen. You're listening to Today's Issues.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildmon.
And as you wish that men would do to you, do so to them. The words of our Lord. Anthony Pino, age 9, came running into his home one afternoon, shouting to his mother that his 3 older brothers had fallen into a pond and needed help. It happened when one of the brothers, Reuben, jumped on a plank floating in the pond north of Walsenburg, Colorado, and paddled away from the shore. He lost balance and fell into the pond. Reuben, who was 12, called for help. 2 other brothers, Freddie, 13, and Richard, 10, both went into the pond to save Reuben. Since none of the boys could swim, Anthony ran home to get help. Mrs. Fred Pino picked up the phone to call for help. 2 people were talking on the party line. Miss Pino explained the situation to them and asked them to please hang up so that she could call for help for her boys. The other 2 people refused to hang up. They laughed and ridiculed Miss Pino. She begged them to please get off the line, that her boys were drowning. They refused to do so, continued to laugh and ridicule. Another lady in the home with Miss Pino took the receiver, spoke to the other 2 people, told them again what had happened, and asked them to please let Mrs. Pino make the phone call for help. She, too, was met with a similar answer. You know, reading such a story, one wonders how any 2 people could be so cruel and heartless. A mother, pleading for only the use of a phone for a few moments in order to call for help for her drowning sons, was laughed at, ridiculed, refused. The story isn't new. As much as we talk about the goodness of man, there remains always the evilness and sinfulness of man. Our Heavenly Father knows something about this type of sinfulness. While he was pleading and begging people to listen, they were intent on carrying his Son to the crucifixion site. While he attempted to be heard, they laughed and ridiculed him. Just common courtesy would have dictated that one should share a party line with one's neighbor. And certainly, knowing of one in Ms. Pino's situation, common courtesy would have said to be of all the help you can. But then not everyone cares about common courtesy. There's still selfishness and hatefulness and sinfulness in the world. For thousands of years, our fathers been trying to get us, all of us, to treat each other like our brothers. And for an equal number of years, we've been refusing. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Stupid, silly, out of date, childish. Some people evidently think so. At least they don't think it applies to them. I wish those people could speak with Freddie or Reuben or Richard. Unfortunately, they cannot. They'll have to speak with Mrs. Pino. You see, Freddie, Reuben, and Richard are all dead. They drowned. Do unto others. Think about it the next time your brother is in need. And if you fail to act on it, for your own sake, ask for forgiveness.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildmon, a production of the American Family Association.
Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." Matthew 19:14.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
And welcome back. Ed Vitagliano sitting in for Tim Wildmon today, joined in studio by Fred Jackson and Chris Woodward. And now we welcome to the program one of our favorite guests, one of our favorite people, Dr. Alex McFarland, who's co-host of Exploring the Word, heard weekdays at 3 p.m. Central Time on American Family Radio. Alex, welcome back.
Well, good morning, everybody.
All right, Alex, let me ask before we get into our issue that we want to talk to you about, and if the conversation goes from there, that'd be awesome. But you've got a new book out, you and Bert Harper. I mean, brand new. It's out, I think, for the first time last week, perhaps. Why don't you tell our listeners about it?
Well, thanks very much. Yeah, it's called 100 Bible Questions and Answers on Prophecy and the End Times. And it is brand new, came out October 7th. And it was written, it's the third book that Bert Harper and I have written together in response to the voluminous questions we get on Exploring the Word. We have the great privilege of doing a radio show on the AFR network live 5 days a week. And, we teach through the Bible, and Bert and I have, in 15 years, taught through the entire Bible about 2.5 times, not quite 3 times, but we take questions, and I've just kind of, some of the questions are repeated over and over, but then whenever new questions come along that are kind of unique, I've always written them down. I've kept like stacks and stacks of paper while we're doing the show that I'm writing things down, and it's become, now 3 books, of course, the most recent of which is the one on prophecy. And listen to this, I got to tell you something. October 7, 2025 was the release date. And when we were working on this book, little did we know that would be not only the 2-year anniversary of the tragic Hamas attacks, October 7, 2023, but also it would be the very week that the peace deal between Israel and Gaza would be, approved and ratified. And Bert and I both believe that we are living in prophetically significant times. It's time to have our house in order. Christ is coming. But I really think this book, published by Broad Street, it's available everywhere. Although first it was available as a premium if you support the American Family Association. But I really think it will help people of all ages understand what God's Word says about the future. And we say, unlock the mysteries of Bible prophecy. This book, we think, will help.
Alex, Fred here. A question for you. What is the most frequently asked question?
Great question. Here are 3 very, very frequently asked questions that we get on a weekly basis. Are we in the last days? I think the answer is yes. Is the Antichrist alive right now? Only the Lord knows. but thirdly, is America in Bible prophecy? And I don't necessarily think it is, although, I think America has been, for 2 centuries, America has really been at the forefront of the Great Commission. But certainly America will play a role in the end times. But does the Bible specifically allude to America? I don't really think it does because, of course, when the Bible was completed, that was 17 centuries before the birth of America. But we get that question a lot, Fred.
Okay.
Well, inquiring minds want to know. And if they want to know, they will listen to Exploring the Word. Alex McFarland and Bert Harper host that every weekday at 3 p.m. Central Time on AFR. I would also encourage you to go to afr.net and check out the podcast. You can listen to shows that have already aired, and you will get as much Bible teaching as you need. Well, not as you need, but as you might want from AFR. All right.
Hey, can I say something really cool?
Sure.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but, we just this week had the great privilege of leading a German man who lives in Romania to Christ. He found us online, listens to Exploring the Word in Romania, had some questions. He was somewhat torn between Islam or Christianity. We began a series of emails. Then he called me. I gave him my phone number. And in a series of phone conversations, this man accepted Christ, just gloriously gave his life to Christ.
Amen.
On the phone Monday. Yeah, I think it was Monday afternoon of this week. AFR sharing the gospel with people in Romania. Isn't that a blessing?
That is. Wow. It's amazing. It's the power of the gospel, and it is really just another reason for us, for the people who work here, to rejoice in the fact that we have the privilege of being used by God to help reach people with the gospel and with the knowledge of Jesus. Folks, we're honored, and in the wake of our most recent share-a-thon, we want to thank you for those who are able to support us, keep us on the air, so that we can get more great testimonies like that, which Alex just shared. Okay. All right, Chris, let's once you introduce the issue, we wanted to have Alex kind of shed some light on.
Yeah, well, Alex has been a frequent guest on these kinds of topics, and I say that because in recent years, really hardly a month or season goes by without bringing on Alex to talk about a new study or somebody saying that more and more young people are increasingly identifying as LGBTQ. That may be changing now, and I say that based on a new study out that finds young Americans are increasingly identifying as heterosexual again. This is some research that was carried out by the Center for Heterodox Social Science at the University of Buckingham, England, which analyzed the gender identification and sexual orientation of younger Americans. Alex, what do you think about this?
Well, yeah, I think that the destructive delusion of transgenderism is imploding on itself. And I know for a number of years, the sad thing about it is that during the Biden administration, transgender identification was just taken as an ethnicity. And I was on different shows, and I had people, really take me to task that transgenderism, they just assumed it to be like an ethnicity, Asian or Hispanic, whereas it's a mindset and it's a behavior, and it is very changeable, very malleable. But I think that we've seen not only the 3 recent shootings, Tennessee, Minneapolis, and of course Charlie Kirk, that transgenderism and transgender ideology played a role in that. But Ben Shapiro, about 2 weeks after Charlie Kirk was shot, Ben Shapiro was on the Bill Maher show and gave very an astute analysis that the radicalization and the violence done by professed transgender people, Ben Shapiro said there are like three things. One, transgender ideologues view words as violence. If you critique the worldview, they take it as a personal affront, and they believe that violence is self-defense. And like even when we had Charlie Kirk speak for my conference 2.5 weeks before he was killed, there was a female that came to the microphone, and time doesn't permit me to recount the entire dialogue, but she said, "You're canceling me." So there's been this mindset that if you and I don't mean using the Bible, I'm talking like good mental health professional research and medical research. If you disagree with the transgender claims, they feel like you're canceling my existence or something. Now, young people and sane minds of any age, they realize, look, this is counterintuitive, counter-reality. It is detrimental, not beneficial. It's just, I think the jig is up, and the myth and the delusion and the lie of transgenderism, people know it, people see it, and the momentary fad has passed.
Alex, I think you're exactly right. When we first started to hear about this, it was kind of a fad. Social media, a lot of kids talking about it. Wouldn't it be cool if that kind of thing? But I think what we have seen now in recent years is that we're also being made aware of the consequences, because there are kids who went and had physical operations, changed their bodies, subjected themselves to hormone treatments, all that sort of thing. And now we're seeing evidence of the very negative consequences of that, as these kids now regret doing that. And they're coming out and speaking out about this. So it's kind of the other side of the story is finally being told, that it isn't just, and we use the word fad, it isn't just something like we're all going to buy red cars. No, this has consequences that affect these kids for life. And now we're starting to see individuals warning others, don't do this. I said the other day, Alex, that the group that I blame a lot for this is medical doctors who actually did this, knowing that there might be these kinds of consequences.
Well, Chloe Cole, sued Kaiser Permanente. Okay, Chloe Cole was at 14 years old given a double mastectomy and puberty blockers and things like that. And some of the people said to her, because she was, a teenager, an adolescent, confused, in development as adolescents are, physically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. All right, think about this. Her parents were told, do you want, because she was confused, so her parents were told, and I'm quoting, they said, do you want a living son or a dead daughter? Because if you don't do this, she's going to commit suicide. Well, that didn't happen, and now, I don't know how she is now, but she's a person whose body was horribly damaged, and she's trying to rebuild her life, and she's become really kind of an activist. They call her a detransitioner. But here's the thing, guys, I've said this, that it's a spiritual problem, and transgenderism is really the ultimate form of moral relativism. Because look, it's one thing to say, God, you can't tell me how to behave, but the transgender worldview is essentially shaking one's fist and saying, God, you can't even define who and what I am. I'm a genetic male or a genetic female. No, I will chart my own reality. I will define what I am. And that's demonic. I mean, it really is. And so I want to say this, guys. Those in positions of leadership, whether they be elected officials or educators, certainly ministers in the pulpit, we are duty-bound. I really think any leadership position is really something entrusted to people by God. We know a minister in a pulpit is accountable to God, but really I think a parent, a teacher, certainly an elected official, and people in media, they have a responsibility before God to speak truth and tell people maybe not what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. And all of we know the Hollywood talking heads, they don't know what truth is. They pretend for a living. Seriously. I kind of groan whenever they'll say, this or that actress or that, Hollywood celebrity is, anti-life, pro-trans, LGBT. Well, we know Hollywood, they're very much detached from reality and God's truth itself. But those that are, leaders, and that's why, Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan was going to make dead naming a felony. In other words, if somebody, is transitioning and you even accidentally refer to them, Mr. So-and-so, that could be a felony punishable by a fine and jail time. This is crazy. And the one more thing, and I'll throw it back to you guys, but our whole government, Christianity aside, the Declaration, Preamble, Constitution, Bill of Rights, 50 out of 50 state constitutions that reference God, and they do, by the way, our whole government rests on the assumption of moral truth. And the LGBTQ trans plus woke agenda assumes that there is no objective moral truth. And whenever I'm at colleges and they say, well, you don't believe a male is a female, you may not impose your Christianity on me. And I said, well, look, the idea that a male is not a female, that's not Christianity. That's just common sense reality.
Right.
So we have to have some brave souls that will speak truth and reality, if for no other reason, for the preservation of our Constitution. Our Constitution does not work in a moral vacuum.
That's true. And in fact, no government can. We are discovering, though, that you can only bend and shape nature and reality so far before it boomerangs and blows up in your face. I'm mixing metaphors here, but absolutely right. Hey, Alex, what you got cooking, you and Bert, today and tomorrow?
Well, we just yesterday we began 2 Peter. We just go chronologically through the Bible, and we taught 1 Peter. And so, folks, if you're new to exploring the Word, you've come at a good time because we just began 2 Peter. You haven't missed anything much. And these two books, oh my goodness, Peter, the Apostle Peter, is my favorite New Testament character next to the Lord Jesus, of course. But 1st and 2nd Peter are powerhouse. I know Paul gets all the limelight. Paul, Hebrew of the Hebrews, probably a genius level IQ, seriously. But Peter, don't underestimate the Apostle Peter, because his books are just really powerful theologically, practically. So that's what we're doing. We're just now embarking on 2 Peter. And, by the way, if I can brazenly self-promote, my website is alexmcfarland.com, and we've got a great fall tour schedule, and I'm going to be in Somerset, Pennsylvania, 24th through 26th at Living Hope Church. And then I'll be with Bert at the Fishbowl Retreat, Pickwick Landing State Park, October 28th through 30. Then I'll be in Fort Caswell on the coast of North Carolina, a big youth retreat. We anticipate 800 teenagers, November 7 through 9. But anyway, if you look on my calendar, I am coming soon to a town near you, folks.
Well, folks, check that out at alexmcfarland.com and other resources there and scheduling for Alex. So check that out. Alex, thank you so much for being on with us again today.
Hey, God bless you guys. Thanks. See ya.
All right. Now, folks, I do want to correct myself here. The new book from Alex and Bert, 100 Bible Questions and Answers on Prophecy and the End Times, will be available on our resource center December 1st. So we kind of piqued your interest in that book, but that will be available for purchase at our resource center, resources.afa.net. On December 1st. So I do apologize for that oversight. Resources.afa.net, however, does have all kinds of other great materials available, including previous books from Alex and Bert in the 100 Questions and Answers series, of which the most recent one is the aforementioned 100 Bible Questions and Answers on Prophecy and the End Times. That is coming and will be available for purchase December 1st. All right, Chris, let's move on with more of the news.
Yes, speaking of campus events, Vice President J.D. Vance and Erica Kirk, now leader of TPUSA, Vance and Kirk are going to be coming to Oxford, Mississippi at the end of this month for an event at the University of Mississippi, also known as Ole Miss. This was an event that Charlie Kirk was scheduled to appear at but prior to his death. His assassination. And so now his wife's going to come here along with Vice President J.D. Vance. Somebody talking about this on the television this morning is TP USA podcast host Alex Clark. Here's what Alex had to say, clip 7.
President and the Second Lady have forged the most beautiful friendship amidst tragedy. And they've gotten so close, and I love that she's getting to do this event with him. And people need to know, if you live in that area, first of all, it's worth it to travel. If you got to drive a little bit, get there early. We have thousands and thousands of people trying to get into these events now, and not everybody can fit because they're indoors. They're very safe. We have crazy security at these now. I mean, so I would make sure that you make plans. This is a once-in-a-lifetime moment. Do not miss it.
Well, Fred, this is near our headquarters, where our flagship station for American Family Radio is located. It's going to be in Oxford, Mississippi. And we know there's thousands of people trying to get in. We're trying to get credentials. Others here have already gotten some tickets for this event. I do want to make mention of the fact that Erica Kirk must be an extraordinary woman because she has not had a lot of time to grieve the death of her husband. Her children have lost their father. But she is determined to keep Charlie Kirk's memory alive and the work that he started going. So this is an extraordinary woman.
Absolutely. Heard a bit of her speech on that huge memorial that was held a couple of weeks ago. Right. And she is grieving, but boy, she is determined that the groundwork that the Lord allowed Charlie to create under Turning Point, that she says it's not only going to be, she said it's not going to be maintained, we're going to grow this.
Well, and the number of chapters is exploding.
It is.
Across the country.
Absolutely, and those figures were mentioned yesterday in a couple of programs. So it's exciting. It's also exciting. Remember, J.D. Vance, he used Air Force Two to fly the body of Charlie Kirk from Utah back to Arizona for that service. And so, Erica is, she's right up there. She's going to be a take charge person. She is a take charge person. So that's going to be quite an event at Ole Miss. So as we were just saying, if you're in the vicinity of Oxford, Mississippi, and you can get a ticket, you can go online to Turning Point to get a ticket to get in there. Thousands are going to attend. And Charlie Kirk's mission marches on.
Yeah, it's It's that's quite a story as well. The fact that the assassination of Charlie Kirk has actually made him far more famous, if I can use that word, and more well known to young people, many of whom had heard of him, but had not really paid a whole lot of attention to what he was saying, and the access of young people accessing past speeches, past, the clips from his interaction with students on college campuses, that's gone through the roof as well. So in a sense, his voice and his arguments and his worldview is expanding in the wake of his murder. So
it's exciting to watch what God is doing.
What God is doing in bringing good out of a tragic situation.
Absolutely.
And again, folks, pray for his widow, Erica, because this can't be easy for her. Now, she is a strong woman, but I've never lost a spouse, certainly have never lost one under such tragic circumstances. I don't know how long it would take to grieve, but she is plowing through to keep the work her husband started going. So be praying for her. It still must be very, very difficult. And if you are in the area of Oxford, better get your tickets soon, because I think that's going to be quick to sell out. All right, you are listening to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Ed Vitagliano, Fred Jackson, Chris Woodward. You just listened to Dr. Alex McFarland. Join us. We are going to take a 5-minute break for news. And when we come back, Steve Jordahl will be joining us. We will continue looking at the news of the day. And don't forget, tomorrow is Friday. That means Trivia Friday will be live. And our expectation is that Tim Wildmon will be back in the captain's chair. 5-minute break. We'll be right back.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
All God asks of you is faithfulness. Headlines in USA Today, did you see it this morning? All the odds are against us. Faithfulness is the word.
There's a place for you on the battle line. Engage in the fight for America's families. Visit afa.net and then take your position. A message from the American Family Association.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
This is American Family News. I'm Steve Jordahl. President Trump confirmed Wednesday that he has authorized the CIA to conduct covert operations inside Venezuela and said he was weighing having the U.S. military attack the country. This comes as the U.S. military has conducted at least 5 fatal strikes against alleged drug boats in the Caribbean since September, killing 27 people, with 4 of those boats originating from Venezuela. Ambassador to the United Nations Mike Waltz joined Fox and Friends with reaction.
These are designated terrorist gangs, and President Trump is going to do whatever it takes and use all the tools in the toolkits from the intelligence community, from the Department of War, and of course diplomatically to defend U.S. sovereignty against actions that are actively killing Americans.
The Supreme Court on Wednesday appeared inclined to limit the use of the Voting Rights Act to force states to draw electoral districts favorable to minority voters. The court's 6 conservative justices, to one degree or another, seemed like they would vote effectively to strike down a black majority House district in Louisiana because it relied too heavily on race. A ruling for Louisiana could open up the door for legislatures to redraw congressional maps across the South, potentially boosting Republican electoral prospects by eliminating majority black and Latino districts that tend to favor Democrats. A Florida court has ruled that a school board can constitutionally remove an LGBTQ-themed book from its school library. AFN's Bob Kellogg has the story.
Chief U.S. District Judge Alan Windsor, a Trump appointee, rejected the idea that the First Amendment was violated by Florida's Escambia County School Board. Matt Staver of the Liberty Counsel explains the book, and Tango Makes Three, is about homosexuality.
And Tango Makes Three follows two male penguins who adopt, hatch, and then raise Tango, a penguin chick, at New York's Central Park Zoo. It is a book about same-sex marriage, and it is for young children.
Saber went on to explain the court made a right decision in this case, that libraries need discretion in purchasing books and in removing books based on various factors.
And by the fact that they purchase a book doesn't mean that it becomes a public forum. Otherwise, that would mean every person can force a library to carry a book or force a library to maintain the book after it has purchased the book.
Judge Windsor wrote the library did what libraries have been doing for 2 centuries by deciding which books are appropriate. I'm Bob Kellogg.
Pope Leo XIV may occasionally confuse the faithful with his liberal social views, but he's clear as a bell on one topic. He made his fandom of the Chicago White Sox known at the Vatican this week. Fox's Jared Max explains.
In what may have sounded like it could have been a sports parade Wednesday in Vatican City, on Vatican media, Pope Leo XIV greeted thousands while standing riding in the back of the Pope-mobile. A native of Chicago, he exchanged words with somebody who would shout at a sports jab his way about the Pope's favorite baseball team. After somebody yelled, "Go Cubs" at Pope Leo XIV, a lifelong Chicago White Sox fan responded in Spanish, "Han perdido." Then in English translated, "They lost." The Cubs were eliminated in the National League Division Series Saturday by the Brewers. Still, the Cubs won 32 more games this year than the Pope's favorite Chicago baseball team. Jared Max, Fox News.
And finally, troubled weather lies ahead. Fox senior meteorologist Janice Dean has a look at the Fox weather forecast.
A system traveling across the country will bring the risk of strong to severe thunderstorms starting Friday through the weekend and into next week, starting with the Plain States through the Mississippi Valley and then the eastern seaboard on Sunday and Monday. We can expect all sorts of different weather, including heavy rain, large hail, damaging winds, and even the risk for tornadoes, especially Saturday and Sunday. Flooding will be possible depending on where you live. Meanwhile, the Northwest getting active with several storm systems lined up for that region over the next week. Stay alert with Fox Weather. I'm Janice Dean, Fox News.
And for American Family News, I'm Steve Jordahl.
AFA Action takes attacks on the family seriously. The enemies of the family constantly employ new tactics to try to sneak past our radar. They know if we stand together, their evil plans will fail. Your gift to AFA Action allows us to stay vigilant against their onslaught. And if you give this month, you'll receive access to the Cultural Institute video When Your Faith is Illegal by Frank Harbor on AFA Stream as our thanks. You can make your gift today at afaaction.net.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Ed Vitagliano.
And welcome back to Today's Issues. Ed Vitagliano and Fred Jackson in studio. This is our last segment for the day on this show. And, of course, that means Steve Paisley Jordahl is in the house.
Everybody, good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. And
Yes.
Good morning for everybody else.
And that does make a difference. Fred, I'll turn away from Steve right now. He doesn't care about hockey. My team, Bruins. So I just got muted. Got muted by Brent Creeley as soon as I mentioned the word hockey. They're on the West Coast heading west for a road trip. That means they play late.
Oh.
And I'm just too old to stay up.
Yeah,
Watch the whole
I
game
agree
to
with
midnight.
you. We go through the schedule. We have that channel. I don't know if you do. You have a selection of hockey games.
Yes.
You can watch anytime. And one of our teams is Winnipeg. And so we get the schedule. We can watch a home game for Winnipeg. But if they're playing Vancouver or Seattle or L.A., forget it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make it even to the first period at all.
You and I both get up early.
Yes.
Now, you get up early because you're here at work early. I get up early just because my mind is fresher and I do writing and studying and stuff early morning. But that means I can't do like I used to when I was younger, which is to stay up late.
Yeah.
So, Steve, we'll now draw you into the conversation. How late do you stay up?
Oh, man. I tell you, my wife is a talker. And
let me just stop you right there. Like Tim always does when I start to drift towards dangerous territory.
Danger, Will Robinson.
Danger. Just be careful
she
here.
knows.
Okay,
She
all right.
She knows. No.
Okay.
I will often find myself deep in conversation at 1 a.m, not thinking, or I'm thinking, we're not really considering. My alarm goes off at 5, so
yeah, that's brutal. When you get to be our age, how old are you?
I'm 65.
Oh, you're 60. No, we're all in the same boat.
I wouldn't want to hear myself in a conversation at 1 o'clock in the morning.
All right, folks, that's probably more information than you wanted, so we will move on. Steve, what's your first news story?
All right. Well, it looks at the moment like the next mayor of New York City is going to be Zoran Mamdani, who, if he doesn't call himself a communist, actually is a Democrat, socialist, and he consented to an interview yesterday on Fox with Martha McCallum. It was pre-recorded, I believe, and he has not changed a whole lot of positions. He's not moving to the center for anything. So I wanted to go through just a couple of the things that he said. He has, as a socialist, of course, his thing is he's got 18 million things he wants to give everybody for free, right? So he wants to give free bus rides to everybody, free lunch, free housing, just a whole bunch of free stuff that he's going to...
Who doesn't want that?
I want that.
That'd be awesome.
I know. How's he going to pay for it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the question. Well, let's find out how he's going to pay for it. Cut 13.
I believe these are the most straightforward ways that we can actually fund universal childcare, making buses fast and free. Mm-hmm. And I've said that the two clear ways to do so, raising personal income taxes on the top 1% by 2%, and raising the corporate tax to match that of New Jersey's corporate tax of 11.5%.
What would you cut? What would you draw from to do it?
I don't think we have to cut. I've spoken about raising taxes on the wealthiest. If you're making $1 million in New York City, or more than that, you can afford to pay 2% more.
Are you going to, though? Are you going to pay it, or are you just going to move to Florida?
Well, listen, this is the way they all make it sound attractive. Top 1%, just pay 2% more. Fred, that sounds reasonable. Okay? Yeah. This is not, it never stays that way. There's always a fine print. I remember there's some, I don't know what state it was. This goes back probably 5 years ago. Might have been California. They always seem to lead the league in wackiness. But they were going to, maybe it was New York, I don't remember. They were going to tax your net worth, not your income. They were going to go actually, I don't know if they were going to physically go into your home. They wanted to look at the artwork you had, your furniture, find out what it was all worth, even though you'd already paid for it, and tax you on your net worth. Now, that didn't finally make it, but this is the mindset of those who are socialist-leaning, certainly who are communist. And the problem is the more you tax companies and corporations, the more you tax people, the faster they leave.
Yeah.
And then you make these promises for all this free stuff, and then you've got nowhere to pay for it. And then you're asking the federal government, hey, we're too big to fail. You got to bail us out.
Yeah. This is what communists do. They sell you with free stuff. You just heard him. Free universal healthcare, daycare, free bus rides. We're going to give you
there could be city-run grocery stores.
Yeah. City-run grocery stores. We're going to freeze rents, all this sort of thing. And that sounds so good. But the history of socialism, the history of communism is once they start offering all of this stuff, they capture you. They capture you, and then the fist of communism comes out.
Right.
We can't afford to do this for you anymore. This is what you're going to get. And you become super dependent on the government.
Right.
Mamdani has been quoted as saying, the answer to everything is to decommodify. All right? Let me read you a definition of decommodify. And he's basically described what this is. Decommodify is the process of reducing the market's influence over essential goods, services, or aspects of life, treating them as rights rather than commodities to be bought and sold. Read into that, we want the government to own your house, all right? We don't want people buying and selling our houses. We want to own those properties, all right? He goes on. It involves shifting the perspective of value from monetary worth to inherent social and ecological worth, aiming to ensure equitable access and protect certain aspects of life from market forces. Basically, we're going to get rid of free enterprise.
Right.
All right, we're going to get rid of free enterprise. The government is going to own everything. Examples include, listen to this, folks, examples include providing universal health care, creating community land trusts for affordable housing, government buying up, apartment buildings, etc., or establishing free public transportation. All right, that is the definition of decommodify. You just heard him say, this is what we want to offer you folks.
And that's just what you just described and what Mamdani was talking about. That's just the nose of the camel under the tent.
Yeah.
And
Indeed.
then the rest of it follows.
And what is the rest of it?
Yes.
Well, he has also talked about some of his policies. He's Muslim, I believe.
Yes.
And he has no love for Israel.
That's right.
I would go as far as to say he's fairly anti-Semitic. And this is how I know. He was asked by Martha McCallum yesterday, if he would denounce the terror group Hamas, the ones that brutalized Israel on October 7th. And this was his answer, cut 14.
You won't say that Hamas should lay down their arms and give up leadership in Gaza.
I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas and Israel beyond the question of justice and safety and the fact that anything has to abide by international law. And that applies to Hamas, that applies to the Israeli military, applies to anyone you could ask me about.
All right, Fred, I will say this about Zoran Mamdani. He is very slick.
Yes, he is.
He's a great communicator.
Mm-hmm.
He's very smart. And that's the kind of answer you're going to get out of this guy. You're never going to find out what he really believes or what he really thinks until he is in power.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, it's just New York City. Fortunately, he's not running for president, although that might come.
Yet, yeah.
Later on down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So that I've listened to him carefully. You're never going to trap him. You're never going to trap him like you could Kamala Harris. Or some of these other politicians who can sometimes be blindsided. He is very, very slick, very smart, and that's the problem. Is when you have excellent communicators, what happens is they sell you this over here, and then when you buy in, they take control and you get more than you bargained for. And then it's too late.
He's 33 years old.
Yeah.
All right. He's been an assemblyman in New York. But I hear a lot of Barack Obama in his speeches.
Also a great communicator.
Yes. But those types of individuals, you mentioned, how did you describe him? Slick?
Slick.
I remember when Barack Obama was running for president. Do you remember the debate? He and John McCain, it wasn't a debate really, with Rick Warren.
Yeah.
You remember the questions Rick Warren asked Barack Obama about how do you feel homosexuality? Oh, I believe marriage between a man and a woman.
Right. That's the way the Bible says it, and I'm a Christian, so that's what I believe.
Yeah. He gets elected, guess what? 180 degrees.
He evolved, Fred.
The far left sees lying and deceiving as a tool to be used.
It's a means to an end.
Yeah. Here's the other scary part. I listened to a speech that Mamdani gave on Monday night this week. It was a rally, okay? And he started talking about, there's power in this room. Big bunch of people. There's power in this room. And he even went as far as to say, we are the new spirit of the Democratic Party. he's right.
Absolutely right.
You know, he's talking about AOC, the far left of the Democratic Party, add in Bernie Sanders if you want into all of that. They are the
squad.
The squad. And to that point, you're going to have these big demonstrations this Saturday, the No Kings demonstration they're talking about. And you're going to have every left-wing group in communities big and small across this country out there describing Donald Trump as a threat to democracy, and we represent the new freedom for America.
Meanwhile, the guy is a communist.
Yes.
Mamdani. You talk about a threat to democracy. Let me also just toss this one other thing in. We can continue. Steve, I'm not sure what else you may have on Mamdani, although I do want to ask about his threat to Benjamin Netanyahu. Islam, the number of Muslims in this country represents only 1% of the population. Now, for a long time, my thoughts have been when people say, you got to watch Islam, it's a threat. My thought has been 1% is not a threat. You should worry about France. You should worry about some of these countries in Europe. However, let me say this. This wedding, this melding of socialism / communism with Islam that we find in Mamdani actually makes me think, you know what? What if people started converting to Islam following Mamdani because they want socialist policies enacted? That could pose a serious threat to our country going forward. Now, Steve, wasn't it Mamdani who said that if Benjamin Netanyahu comes to New York City, he'll arrest him?
It was. He is trolling this war crimes trope that Israel is doing genocide and everything. And he says, well, we let you listen to this. Is Cut 15. He says, we are going to abide in New York City by international law. Cut 15.
I've said that this is a city that believes in international law, and this is a city that wants to uplift and uphold those beliefs. The
United States doesn't stand by the International Criminal Court.
It hasn't signed the treaty for the International Criminal Court. The International Criminal Court, however, has issued a warrant for the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu.
Well, what grounds in the United States could you arrest him on?
As it has for Vladimir Putin. I've said that I believe that we should uphold arrest warrants by the International Criminal Court, and that we should do so only in abiding with all of the laws in front of us. I'm not going to make a new law.
Well, that's outrageous, Fred. That statement, I don't think he could get away with it. He would start an international incident. I'm not sure the New York City Police Department would arrest someone who, for example, if Netanyahu was in New York City to make a speech at the United Nations, he's got diplomatic immunity. All right? You cannot arrest, the federal government can't arrest Netanyahu. But here's the thing that the cat he lets out of the bag. He's going to comply with the International Criminal Court, with the United Nations, even though we haven't signed on to the ICC. He is thinking globalist because this guy's a communist, and he's using communism, I think, to insert Islam in a big way in this country. But it's an outrageous thing for a mayoral candidate, an outrageous statement for a mayoral candidate to make. And it seems to me the people of New York City either are not thinking when it's coming up to the time to vote, or they are thinking and they've switched camps and are going full socialist.
I think America should be very, very concerned, because if anybody thinks that Mamdani doesn't have national aspirations, think again. And if you think, this is New York, they're really stupid in New York, they're going to elect this guy mayor. No. This is just the first step for this guy.
Yeah.
Because I believe he wants to be president, and if he became president, he would be a globalist on steroids. And America's independence, America's way of life would change so dramatically. And here's the scary part. There are millions of university students right now who believe in him.
Yes, they've been brainwashed on college campuses.
On globalism.
Yeah.
And to hate Israel.
Yes.
That's what we saw in the wake of October 7, 2023. We were all shocked. Within 48 hours, campuses across this country were out there pro-Hamas. So this has been going. He is coming into an environment, a milieu, as some people say. He's coming into an environment that actually likes what he's saying.
Well, and I'll say this too, and then we'll toss it back to Steve. Rudy Giuliani went from mayor of New York to a candidate for president. And Zohran Mamdani is much younger. He's a good-looking guy. I'm not saying Rudy Giuliani wasn't. Don't accuse me of that. He's charismatic, as we said. He's an excellent communicator. He's tapped into, like you're saying, the milieu, the atmosphere, the zeitgeist, okay, the spirit of the age for a lot of young people. I think he would be formidable, whether he skips running for governor of New York and jumps into a presidential campaign here on down the road. I think he would be formidable. But it's clear, Steve, that this is the direction that the Democratic Party is going. That's why you see people like Chuck Schumer, who are frankly running scared. They don't want to get primaried by young radicals and lose their spot.
Mamdani has a certain je ne sais quoi. I had to come up with something.
Yeah,
if you're going to do a milieu and you're going to do a zeitgeist, I'm going to have to get something to keep up. Hey, you know what? Let me go back to his support of this trope of the Palestine, Israel being war crimes and everything. Do you remember what one of the charges was against Israel? Was that they were starving the Gazans?
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Yes.
And all these people that were at death's door. Well, Gaza has been liberated, and you've seen a lot of things in Gaza. We've seen some people celebrating. We've seen some horrific murders and lawlessness.
Executions.
You know what you haven't seen? Starving people.
Right.
They all got fed the first day. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think there's some of American media that won't but should be held to account.
Yeah, nobody. I'm getting kind of cynical. I don't think it's just my old age, because I know people younger than me who have reached this level of cynicism. Nobody seems to be held to account for anything. No. Whether it's politicians, whether it's members of the medical community, with all the COVID stuff that went on, the media, nobody seems to pay for anything they do. I don't know what the cause of that is, a lack of will or what have you, but you are right. The media should be held to account. Remember, they were using a photo
of an Israeli hostage.
Well,
the
young man who had a disease. That's why he was. Yeah. That's why his condition looked so grim. Yeah. They said it was because he was being starved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, the media is not going to be held to account, except for the fact that they are hemorrhaging viewers and listeners and readers. I guess maybe that's a form of payback.
By the way, speaking of, I was talking with Media Research Center yesterday, and we're starting to get our end-of-year stories, year in review stories together. And I was asking one of their guys what his takeaway was from 2025, and it is the year that we started seeing the stranglehold of the liberal stranglehold on the mainstream media loosen up.
Yeah,
things are happening. We've got an independent journalist who's been very fair and balanced and coming into CBS. The Washington Post is...
Is that Barry Weiss?
Barry Weiss. Yeah. Washington Post is owned by a conservative. The Los Angeles Times is owned by a conservative.
Hey, Time Magazine, there's a kerfuffle over the fact that Time Magazine chose as the cover photo for Donald Trump something, the least flattering photo you could pick. And I just glanced at an article saying the billionaire owner of Time Magazine is upset that was the kind of editorial decision that was made.
I think that there's change afoot. I want to end with this because I don't want to get away without doing this. You want to know how to get under Nancy Pelosi's skin?
Not really.
No, probably not. Ask her.
Or in her head.
Ask her about January 6th. She was asked by a reporter from Mike Lindell's TV. Her name was Allison Steinberg, about January 6th. And, there's a January 6th committee, the second one, the Republican one, now is finding a whole bunch of stuff that happened on January 6th. And she was asked about some of it. I want you to hear this. This did not go over very well with her. Cut 8.
Have responsibility, Terry.
Cut 8. I'm sorry, Brent, I called the wrong.
Congresswoman Pelosi, are you at all concerned that the new January 6th committee will find you liable for that day? Are you at all concerned about the new January 6th committee finding you liable for that day? Why did you refuse the National Guard on January 6th?
Shut up. I did not refuse the National Guard. The president didn't send it. Why are you coming here with Republican talking points as if you're a serious journalist?
The American people want to know. We still have questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy Pelosi. Shut up. Hey, now, this young lady who's asking that, this is from Mike Lindell's. This is the My Pillow guy?
Yeah, My Pillow guy has a news.
Is this the young lady? This is an unfair question because you don't know who I have in mind. But she's been popping up in a lot of stories on X and so on and so forth. She's a young lady, and she is bold as all get out.
I'm sure this is.
She goes to protests and does these interviews. I don't know if it's the same person.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. That video, as the camera leaves and she says thank you, she turns around and boy, you should see the grin she gives to the camera. I got her.
Well, Fred, I got to say that response from Nancy Pelosi for old people, I'll just say for me, I recognize that snapping at a young person, get off the grass, that kind of thing. Yes. Nancy Pelosi has officially reached the, hey, you kids, get off the grass stage.
I think she's been there for a while, actually.
All right. Well, listen, I'm glad we ended with something a little bit funny. Folks, keep your eye on New York City, and that's coming right down the pipe. That is a November election, right?
That is correct.
So we'll be watching to see if a communist takes over New York City without a shot being fired.
Yep.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today's issues. There is more great programming directly ahead on American Family Radio. Just want to remind you that tomorrow, Trivia Friday will be here, and we're not talking about Zohran Mamdani, Nancy Pelosi, or any other grouchy old people. So anyway, we'll see you then, Lord willing.